record. And boom, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to day number 4 of the Lacrosse Goalie Summit 7. We've had a great summit so far, some amazing coaches, some amazing learning moments. I'm pretty pumped for today's session. 2 more days left in the summit. Before we get started, I want to know who is here in the chat. Say hello, name, age, where you're tuning in from. I see a lot of common names. It's so cool to see you guys. Some people have attended every single event so far. If that's you, throw up a hand in the chat. And as you come on in, say hello. We got hi from Germany, says Marie. Super awesome. I'm pumped to welcome in Coach Curtis Armstrong. Coach, how are we doing today?
Good. Yes.
All right, man. Well, I'm super pumped for your session. Physical drills. It's going to be great. You got a bunch of exercises and a bunch of things that you're going to teach lacrosse goalies. I know you work specifically with lacrosse goalies.
That's correct.
Before we get into that, let me make a couple announcements here. Sponsors. I think you guys already know the sponsors. You could probably mention them in the chat. CL18, Goalie Head, and Deep South Lacrosse is a sponsor. It's this one right here. We're giving away a head per day. So in order to enter that drawing, you got to do 3 things. You got to take a little photo, a little selfie of yourself watching the event. You got to post that on social media and tag at Lax Goalie Rat. And you can also tag Coach Curtis. We can drop your Instagram in the chat there. That's thing 2. And then thing 3, just email help@laxgoalierat.com and just say I posted. Okay. And we'll drop the steps in the chat. So you guys got those. That will get you entered into the drawing. I do one every day. We're also giving away Lexi Shields. They are a sponsor. That is a aftermarket device that attaches to the crown of your helmet and just helps reduce impact if you get hit there. And then special thanks to String King, special thanks to Lax All-Stars, and special thanks to Deny Goalkeeping are the sponsors. Okay. What else do we got? Replays are going to be available. So if you missed the event or you want to go back and rewatch this, go to, there'll be a link at the end of the day that gets sent out. When is the giveaway, says Patrick? I do them every morning. So I did one this morning for yesterday's entries. Okay. So enter again today. You'll get entered into the drawing for tomorrow. VIP pass is still available. It's an unbelievable deal. You get lifetime access to all the coaching sessions. I was chatting with Coach Curtis right before we got started. It's kind of, for me, it's kind of like rereading a good book or rewatching a good movie. Like you go back and you watch these sessions and you pick up things that you missed the first time. So highly recommend that. That's available at laxgoalierat.com/VIP. laxgoalierat.com/VIP. And we'll throw that link in the chat as well. Coach, I see a bunch of goalies on right now. I don't know if you see any familiar names, but you know, we got Peyton 12, Caleb 12, Joe 15, Grant 11, Bree 12. Awesome set of young goalies. I think we're pretty pumped up.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah. Anytime you're ready, let's do it.
Okay. All right. I'll get things going here. All right. You seeing what I'm seeing?
Yeah, we got you. Yep.
Okay, amazing. All right. So physical drills to improve goalie athleticism. So just first a quick breakdown on myself. I am a kinesiology graduate from Langara College. I have 8 years experience working with just general population and now getting more into sport specific stuff. So I've worked with mixed martial artists up here in Canada, as well as some rugby teams and also some like high school level lacrosse. And I was recently picked up by Team BC Lacrosse. So I work predominantly with them building goalie training sessions, but then I also do some dryland training with the youth teams. The general age of athletes I work with are 12 to 16. And basically the drills that I'll use and I'll show you guys are based on creating a strong foundation with them so that as they go into lifting, they can be a bit more well-rounded and well-prepared. So here we go. So the overview, we're going to go into 4 different phases. So the first phase is athleticism and goalies. And then we're going to go into types of athleticism, the importance of being mobile, and then we'll get into maintaining strength. In the second phase, we're going to cover movement, exploration, and rehearsal. Then we'll go over the coach's lens, which is like my internal lens. So like when I'm seeing the sport, what I see, I'll show you what I see to help me decide which exercises I feel are going to be the most beneficial. And then we'll go into foundational movements. Then we'll go into controlled rotation, mobility assessment. And then in the third phase is where we get heavy on the videos. We're going to cover mobility, we'll cover strength, then we'll cover explosive drills. And then in the fourth phase, we're going to go for session organization and then sets and reps, which are going to vary depending on the athlete. And then I'll take you through a skater scenario. So a skater is one of the drills that we run pretty frequently, and I'll show you how I organize it and then how I select the weights depending on what the athlete is doing. And then in the final bit, we'll go over equipment recommendations, and then we're all done. So presentation goals for me, to provide an in-depth way for you guys to be able to select exercises that directly transfer to your performance, or if you're a coach, directly transfer to the performance of your goalies, to help you provide a blueprint as well on how to create and organize a program for goalie athleticism. And then a challenge to all of you to try to implement these exercises and see, what your capabilities are as an athlete or as a coach, what the results you can kind of glean from them are. So first off, how does athleticism impact the goalie position? So it allows you to make saves with greater ease, improves reaction time and recoverability. It also helps increase the confidence of the athlete because they're going to be more familiar, more in tune with their body. So it's going to make it easier for them to get in and out of those positions more easily. It allows them to better focus on the play at hand as well, because they don't, again, have to worry about, can I make the save? Can I get to the position? It's just see the ball, attack the ball. And then we're going to look at the importance of reducing injury as well. So as you are more in tune with the body and we're loading things effectively, we should also decrease the risk of injury as well. And then it just improves your all-around performance as a goalie when you step into the cage. So defining athleticism. What are the 3 keys to athleticism? So we've got mobility, strength, and power. What is goalie athleticism? So our definition, being able to make multiple save efforts without a loss of speed or movement quality. Why is this necessary? So lack of specifics to the training can lead to poor movement mechanics or result in non-specific needs for the goalie. So that's a really wordy way of saying basically if you don't train what you're trying to target, you won't get the results that you're looking for. If you're doing a bunch of stuff that's not really tailored to exactly what you need, you're not really going to get the results you're looking for. So we want to be specific. So we're going to talk quickly about cat athleticism versus bull's strength. So I got 2 clips here for you on YouTube. I want you to try to tell me which animal is going to have kind of the best transfer as a goalie athlete. So we got a bull here charging in to try to lift this car. Okay, so imagine this as the really assertive athlete that's just going in and attack. But really bulky athletes struggle with the more nuanced movement. And as a goalie, we want to actually be a little bit more sleek. So in the next shot here, we've got a video of a cat leaping into the air and snagging a bat. I have no idea why this bat was in the house, coach. I have no idea. But what we're looking at here is the big extension as the animal gets up. We want that nice kind of calculated reaction and being able to see the ball and react to it instead of just, kind of being the bulldozer and just using the body, trying to soak the ball. We want to be able to be kind of in the middle and be balanced and be able to have that agility component. So, in the chat, if you can kind of throw in what you think is more practical, let us know.
What do you guys think? Everyone's thinking cat so far. No bulls, huh? No bulls.
No bulls.
While you're doing that, I have a real quick funny story. I had a bat in my apartment once.
Oh, no way.
No way how it got in there, but I grabbed my goalie stick and I swooped it out of the air like a cat.
Oh, nice.
So there you go.
Sick snag. Nice. That was all the years of training prepped you for that moment.
Exactly.
Pinned it. Nice.
Okay, mostly cats is what people are saying. So there you go.
Exactly. Nailed it. So let's just quickly get on to the next one here. So train to be mobile and explosive over lifting heavy weights. So this is where we can kind of tie in that cat analogy. So the body is adaptable, but only to a point, especially when it comes to the spine. So heavy loads generally will dictate a slower athlete. And we need to understand the what and the why of how we are training and what the purpose is of what we're trying to glean from our training. So light loads generally will equal a faster athlete. And this is all relative to your own body strength. So it's important to understand that heavy for you might not be heavy for someone else. And that's why it's important to have a program that allows you to figure out what those are for you, so you can select the correct exercises and the correct weights to get the results that you're looking for. So heavy lifts require the body to work under tension for longer, and thus decrease performance for a goalie. Because if we have you trying to deadlift heavy weight or squat heavy weight, that's going to work against you because it's taking you too long to move it to where you need it to be, basically. So goalies must be fast and agile like the cat. And then we prioritize power, mobility, and strength third. So what is strength maintenance? Just because strength is third on the list doesn't mean that it is not an integral part of that goalie position. So strength maintenance. Strength maintenance is the amount of strength an athlete needs to maintain to be effective at their position. So goalies in both field and box need to be able to perform their game tasks for the entirety of the game without getting tired, so succumbing to fatigue or feeling like their muscles are getting a little bit weaker before. So this must be a given before we can get into these specific drills to be able to maximize this stuff. So there are some things that I'm not going to cover as far as your general fitness level that we want to attain, but are still important to get the most out of the drills that I'm going to show you today. So once we've got the baseline kind of solidified, then we can move into movement foundation. So movement foundation and exploration. Maintaining a quality movement foundation will allow you to excel in your position. So practice it in and out of your gear, with stick or without, and then in cleats or without. These should be movements that you find yourself in frequently. Rehearsing these movements by doing slow transitions in and out of the same position will expose weaknesses in your posture. So starting slow, really slow. If you have specific issues trying to make a low stave on off stick side, really rep out slow movements, kind of coming in out of that, and then slowly speeding things up and making it a little bit more aggressive. And you'll also start to notice that as you become more comfortable, you can increase the speed, but do notice any habits that form. Often athletes at a young age will have tendencies, right? Both as a goalie, but then as a player outside. So if you can notice those tendencies, you'll be able to work on your, like the weaker areas of your game to make yourself a more balanced athlete, which is just going to make you better overall. So we've got some movement footwork and then grid exploration. So
Coach, while you're bringing those up,
yeah.
So that's kind of where that expression slow down to speed up comes from, right? Like where you're slowing down the movement and then perfecting it, and then you can speed up.
Yeah, exactly. Getting a lot of those slow reps, like I think for younger athletes and people in general, right? We want to do the explosive stuff, right? But one of the big components of how I organize the training for the athletes is we want quality first over quantity, right? But we also want to make sure that we're trying to create as many different scenarios or movements in our toolkit that we can then utilize, because when you're reacting to the ball, you don't have to think because you've done these things hundreds of times.
Right. Muscle memory.
Exactly. We're trying to provide as many options as possible. So we've got first drill here. So here we've got three athletes. We've got Jack, and then we've got Arjun, and then we've got Dave. So they're just going to go through some varied footwork. I like to do different footwork drills running into goalie movements just because it kind of tricks the brain. I'll often get guys to set up sideways or face the wrong way before they go through a movement, just to see how they turn and see kind of what tendencies they have or what they notice. So right now they're just driving their toes into the ground hard. They're waiting for a go command, and then they're going to pivot and turn. So the main thing with this drill, low speed, not crazy fast, but we want to see almost like you're skipping a rock. You want really short ground contact times before they go into the next movement, just getting their feet comfortable with being able to move and then quickly shift their energy the other way. So we'll show that one more time. So Coach Dave here on the end, and then Arjun in the center, and Jack closest to us.
And these are all goalies, yeah?
Yeah, they're all goalies.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, Dave was actually the guy that got me on to work with the goalies in the first place. He is their primary skill coach.
Nice.
And so next one here, we've got is the grid exploration. So we just set up a grid here, a little square. I got Dave not in his shoes here, just to kind of get a better feel of the ground, and also Arjun's in his socks. So here we're just going through different movements, just letting the person kind of explore at a low speed, trying to level change, focus on different angles and things that they might see. And again, looking for any habits that develop, and all at a low speed. And then you'll see in our next clips, we're going to start to ramp things up here. So we've now got second bit. So this is after a few sessions of getting the guys more acclimated to how to connect and feel the ground, if that makes sense. I'll cover that more. But you can see instantly how they stick and slide a little bit better. So they're actually able to push off the rear foot to get to where they want to go. So yeah, I don't know, Coach, are you seeing what I'm seeing as far as the speed compared to the first clip?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, so we got a little bit more explosiveness already. And often, guys, it's just teaching your feet how to interact with the ground is going to make you that much faster. And then here,
I'm so intrigued by that comment. I'd love to hear more about that. I know you're going to get into it, but that's very intriguing.
Yeah, for sure. Like, you'd be surprised how many young athletes aren't really keyed into how to work and train their feet. And I actually had one of the defensive players that I work with talk about, Coach, I haven't had anyone train my feet before. I'm like, yeah, well, if you drive a really fast car but the tires are bald, you're not really going to get anywhere too quickly with that, or you're not going to be able to stop. So here I've got the guys set up in a varied foot position. They're just going to pivot. Again, just slow speed organization, getting the body accustomed to moving in different planes and different spaces, all without the shoes. So we get more of a feel for things. Okay, let's dive back in. So now we've got movement rehearsal. So this is at a more high intensity. So we're repping out save positions until they become instinctual. Change the start position. We want 1 to 8 saves at a maximum effort. Focus on level changes, changing angles, push through the ground. So really punching and being able to connect into the ground is something I'll talk about a little bit more, but I can't stress that enough. When you're doing your high intense stuff, you want low reps, but you want high efforts. So the body, and particularly your feet and calves, can really get that sense of what it feels like to be stiff. And that's going to allow you to project yourself when you're moving around with more of these agility drills. So again, we want the movements to be crisp, because the body is going to recall the last rep you performed. So that's a great way to ensure that you're not working to the point where you're getting slow. You should feel fast. As soon as you start to feel slow, you did one too many. And that's an excellent way for you as the young athlete to know what number of repetitions to perform that works best for you. Does that make sense, Coach?
Let me repeat it. So as soon as you start to feel yourself slowing down, you sort of reached your max. And at that point, we should cut it. We should rest.
Yeah. And I would honestly say, count that rep, the one where you've started to feel slow and you actually want to do one less. You should feel fast the whole time.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So moving more into our more intense movement rehearsal. So here we've got Arjun moving through what we call walking the line. So I basically get a few set of cones aligned. His job is to dive in and out of these cones as quickly as he can, changing levels and angles as fast as he can. And you'll see, so this is him this year as opposed to last year. So from the previous drills, he's shifting out a lot faster, and you can really see where he's driving off that back foot to get into each position. He doesn't stick for a very long time. He's basically in and out. And as soon as he resets in the center, he wants to get out right away. And again, just trying to feel out a lot of different levels and angles and expose the body to some different stuff here.
Yeah. And going that quick and that walk the line drill can be like a cardiovascular, like you're working out. I mean, it could be.
Oh, totally. Yeah. So the way that I organize a lot of our stuff is we run work to rest ratios that are similar to sprint protocols, which is a big way of saying that we want sets no longer than 10-ish seconds, and then you're resting for a long time, because we want the body to be able to know what it feels like to be violent and aggressive, to move and get to these different angles very quickly. And then we need that long rest to make sure that we're getting our recovery so we can repeat those efforts.
Love it.
At that same level of intensity.
Yeah.
So here we've got Arjun again. he's just doing a different angle here. So this is more of a low lunge. So he's just working on getting his hips into those lower angles. I've got a nice video or a nice image coming up that'll help you see more of what I'm seeing when I see goalies make saves. It's a lot of these diving in type of angles to kind of prep the knees for the stress of play, basically. So let's get you back over here. Okay, and then we've got JR. JR is one of our younger goalies. This kid is fast. So watch his feet as he pushes to the position. He's got really nice level changes as he comes in. He's not sticking too much. It's a lot more kind of sliding, which I don't mind because, again, this is a lot of movement exploration. But on the first three here, he pushes off and he's changing levels and angles nice and quick. This is what we like to see. Seeing how well he can kind of move to each position, getting in and out. And then our next one here, we've got Marcus. So Marcus is a box goalie, or prefers box. So again, movement exploration, he's just feeling it out. So more box save type movement, but then again at high speed. So we mix between doing those slower movements or providing different level changes and then getting into those box saves, doing his best to be fast with his feet. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, and then diving back in here. So now I've got 4 images of 4 different saves, and I'm going to show you guys what I see as the coach when I was initially doing my research before I worked with the goalies, so I could provide exercises that I thought would be relevant. So first thing I noticed with athlete number 1 here, she is rotating. So she's rotating to her left to make a save that I'm assuming the ball is coming up here. So you'll notice her torso is very upright, which is what we want to maintain, that upright torso so we're nice and tall. We're covering lots of space. But the low angles here you're actually going to see are very similar with all these images. So big rotation through that right hip as she comes over and across, just opening that hip and then planting with that left. Athlete number 2 making a low save here. Same push off. So she's pushing hard off her right. He's pushing hard off his right as he comes in. Another low angle here. Very similar to the first one. And then torso, even though it is leaning forward, nice and upright. So you're maintaining that upright posture. So you're balanced, you're not falling forward. So common injuries that we would expect to see with athletes that are moving through this, we're going to see a lot of hip, a lot of knee, ACL, MCL, LCL, groin issues. So we want to make sure that when we're doing our building of the exercises, we want to make sure we're covering all this stuff so we can essentially try to bulletproof these athletes or try to minimize their injury risk. So lower section here, even though this athlete is now on the ground making a 6 snag up here, the torso is upright again, and we see that they are now rotating this way to the right, and they also have a very similar angle through the hip and groin. So this is a trend. Especially if we start to see this consistently, this is a trend. So this really helps me on how I organize the exercises that I cover with my athletes. So again, upright torso, box goalie, balls over here. And then same nice low angle, not as low, but doesn't mean that they don't need to be able to get into these lower positions if the situation calls for it. Okay. Does that all make sense, Coach, as far as what you're seeing visually?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, amazing. All right, so now we are moving on to our first set of mobility. So this is an excellent mobility flow. So what I'll ask is, Coach, if you want to, I don't know if your setup allows you to be able to go through this stretch that I'm going to demo, but I know we talked about it if you wanted to give it a try. It covers a lot of bases here. So basically the Cobra with the rotations is going to cover your left and right rotations that you see with athlete 1 and athlete 3 rotating to the left and right. And then with the pike arch, this one is an excellent hamstring kind of assessment. You're trying to see how stretchy or flexible your hamstrings are and kind of what you need to work on there. And then we've got another undersweep. This is also going to cover the hip rotation, hip traveling down, but then also, again, working on the rotation of the spine. So I will play it for you now.
I got some space. You want me? Did you want me to do the exercises live?
Yeah, if you want to go through it, I swear to you, man, you hit it twice, you're gonna feel totally warmed up and ready to play.
If I got to go on the ground though, you're going to lose me off the camera.
Okay, no, that's fair. All right. So anyone that's watching and their setup allows for it, this is one of our go-tos. Okay, so this is the pike arch here. That big rotation is going to allow you to open things up through the back, and then we're assessing the hamstrings there. And then we've got another rotation up top, which is going to go the other way and also stretch out the hips and groin in the center.
Oh, that is beautiful.
Yeah.
Now,
And
how
then the
long have
low
you been
speed
doing this
here.
to get to that level of mobility, flexibility?
Oh, I had some really good teachers, man. They were beating me up for years, but I'm just crazy enough to keep doing it now that I'm on my own. And it helps me me and a lot of my clients to stay young, to be able to keep this stuff up. That's the key.
Yeah, play
But
that one again. So you go Cobra, you go left, right,
so yeah,
touch.
Cobra, pike arch, toe taps, left, right, and then big rotation. You want a mobile spine. So again, this is what I was talking about earlier about the importance of not lifting overly heavy. I know a lot of the people in the chat here are like quite young, but if you're an athlete and your body needs to rotate, it doesn't do you that good to load a lot of weight on your back, because your body will adapt to that compressive force, and it's going to make you strong, but it'll make your spine a little bit more rigid, which is going to prevent you from rotating.
Mm.
There's a great teacher out of an author out of Waterloo University, named Stuart McGill. And he talks a lot about healthy back and the importance of, depending on what type of training you're doing, how to assess and select exercises. So
We had a request to play it one more time. Could you play it one more
Oh,
time?
yeah.
Lexi wants to see it one more time.
One more time.
That's such a good one.
So Cobra, and then look left, look right.
Yeah. Kind of a downward dog, then a touch,
toe tap, and
then
rotate.
step up, rotate. Yeah.
Yeah,
and then
really
strength.
try to keep that. Oh,
sorry,
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and we're strengthening and getting flexibility in the hips too. And I think that's so important as a lacrosse goalie for that explosion.
Exactly, right. A lot of the time with athletes, you don't really know how much athleticism you have if you're stiff all the time. You know what I mean? You can't actually unlock the pliability of your body to be able to exert if you're restricted, right? So we want to be able to loosen up those muscles to allow enough space for you to be able to move. So that's essentially what this drill is calling for.
Beautiful.
And you can also use it as a bit of a marker to tell yourself, if I'm feeling stiff in this particular area, do I need to do more work here to create more space in this area to improve my performance? Okay, so on to the next one here. So fundamental movements, we've got Cossack squats, lunges, pivots, skaters, jump hops, and rotations. So starting with the Cossack squat. So let's say from the previous one, if my hamstrings were tight, I would then go into this drill. So Arjun's using a band here. He's getting nice and low, shifting left and right, trying to get his butt all the way to the ground. If you're thinking of like the Spider-Man pose landing, that's kind of what we're looking for here. Getting nice and low. So sets of really depends on how you're feeling, but 20 repetitions is usually pretty decent, especially in a warm-up. So I'll play that for you one more time. Just diving in and out of the position here. And also make note, as far as tendencies, if you're stronger going to one side, that hamstring may be tighter. The leg that you're pushing off to get down there, that hammy might be a little bit tighter, so you might need to do a few more reps on that side.
I'm gonna start doing this one for sure. Can I use like a TRX band or TRX things? I have to be.
Yeah, you can even use depending on how your house is laid out, you can hang on to like a column. If you just got a section of a wall, you can hang on to. As athletes get more proficient, we remove the band, so we allow you to just do it more with your own body and getting nice and low. Mm-hmm. And a big thing with that one as well is you want to keep the entirety of the foot flat. You don't want to have the toe pop off the ground, because that's kind of a compensatory mechanism. You want to make sure you're as flat as possible when you do that one.
All right.
So our next one here is Caleb. So Caleb's doing lunges and he's rotating. So you'll see a lot of the mobility stuff I get guys to run. He's going to pull on that band, which is going to force him to be a little bit more upright with his posture. It's also working on those postural muscles in an isometric as he gets low into these pivots. And then as athletes get more proficient with this, I'll actually have them stand on their tippy toes. So we're working the ankles, and we're also getting a a nice isometric in the calves. So I'll play that one more time for you. And you'll notice he's getting a lot of rotation in there that we saw earlier. And he's also really going to work on the strength in his hip stabilizers to be able to balance in that position.
Yeah.
And I don't know, so from the previous clip where I showed you the images, you see how he's coming down. This is a lot of like a low position, say, that he would probably make fairly frequently. I'll show you a different variation in just a sec. So those were our lunges with rotations, and now we've got our pivots. So this one is interesting because this is where we get the athlete's torso to do something different than the hips. So Arjun's going to pull the band, he's going to stay nice and straight up, and then he's pivoting left to right, but his torso angle doesn't change here. And again, working on the mobility, so pushing through the toes and bringing himself up and down, and then slowly getting faster while also trying to stay upright. You saw him kind of pop forward there for a second and then correct himself. Play that for you one more time. So as the athlete is pivoting, we can start to increase the speed, but we don't want to lose that structure with the upper body, and that's why the band is there. But then as they get more proficient, we can remove the band and see if they can maintain that posture all on their own. So these are just different fundamental movements that I would have athletes run as they lead into the stuff we're about to get into. So now here we've got one of our plyometrics. We've got skaters. So this is very early. Coach Dave had been working with me probably for like 6 months, and then Arjun was also quite new. So watch the two of them in comparison. You can see Coach Dave has a bit more experience, so he's able to get low here and really drive out. I like to use the band for this variation, or you can go without it. The band provides excellent feedback as Dave drives out to his left. He's going to stick it and then pop back. So both of them are getting more feedback from the band pulling them side to side. And you'll notice that as Arjun kind of cleans up his movement, he's getting more of a lateral shift than just kind of jabbing into the ground. We want to actually see the hips move side to side. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. All right, we'll keep rolling. So now we've got, this is a fun one. So this one, I call this one pogos. So essentially what we're doing here is we are trying to punch hard into the ground. And using the band here, we can actually get more of a spring and a lift than the athlete would be accustomed to. So they're jumping a lot higher than they would normally. And the reason why we do that is because we want additional impact forces on those calves and then on those tendons to really bulletproof those tendons and allow them to be able to receive a lot of force, right? So not only do we need to be able to produce a lot of force, we also need to be able to receive that force and be able to redirect our energy to make our saves effectively.
Interesting. So is he like pulling on the cable?
That's right. Yeah. So he pulls down on the band to get feedback, and then if I wanted even more feedback, I get him to hold up a bit higher. So if I asked you to just do a standing jump, it might be X high, right? And then we give you a band. The band's going to allow you to pull yourself up a bit higher. And the importance of the jump, we're actually looking for less at the jump height difference. We're looking more at how well you can actually receive that force to prep your tendons for the stresses of playing the position, but then also being able to explode and get to these different positions more aggressively.
Love it.
And now we've got hay balers. So I really like this exercise. This is a great flow exercise. So when I say flow, I just mean you're kind of gliding through the movement, and you'll see Arjun here as he does the rotations, he's pivoting left to right. And he does need to get a little bit more extension in through the hips, but I'll get him to go a bit faster here, and you'll see. So the piece of equipment here he's using is called a surge bosu. Basically, it is a tank that I can fill with up to 40 pounds of water. I like to keep the blue one pretty light for our stuff. So the water is sloshing around and provides a lot of instability for him as he's moving. But you could also do this with a band. I wouldn't really recommend it with the dumbbell. You could use a band to do it as more of a warm-up. But if you wanted load to work against, you could do a variation where you have a band attached to a fence, which I can show you a little later. But yeah, so this is an excellent drill just for showing or for getting the athlete comfortable rotating through their hips. But then also at the top end, as he goes faster, he has to quickly redirect his hips the other way. So this would be, you stride out to make a low save, you miscalculate, or you make that initial save, but then there's a rebound and you have to react the other way. You have to be able to force your energy one way and not break down, and then quickly redirect it the other way.
So interesting. And so that thing's filled with water.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
It's
that's
crazy
cool.
when I drive around because it just sounds super chill and calming. Whenever I make turns, you just hear that slosh of the water. But for the athletes, it's also kind of funny because they'll find like they'll be moving with it and they're moving super aggressively, but the water's really calming. So the combination of both is kind of funny because they're trying to murder the tank and the tank's just having a good time. It's just chilling. So
Love it.
it works well to kind of keep the energy calm, we'll say. So jumping back in here. So the importance of controlled rotation and movement patterning. So this is kind of what I mentioned earlier about how we keep the spine healthy. So to protect the spine, we want to allow the hips to be open as we rotate. So you saw in a lot of those movements, there was never anything where, like if you're sitting in a chair right now, as I assume most people are, if I turn over my shoulder, you're going to feel that you get to a point where you're restricted by your spine, right? Like as you turn over, your spine's going to tell you this is as far as we can go, right?
Right.
But if I have you standing up and you're rotating through your hips, like the images you saw, you can rotate much further than if you're just seated. And if you don't open your hips and rotate, all that force that you're taking your body through as you rotate will have to go through somewhere, will have to dissipate somewhere, and it's going to go through your back, right? We want to utilize our legs to allow that rotation to be safer for us long term and protect ourselves. So we want to rotate through the hips. So planes of movement, I'll cover this quickly. So much of the goalie's sport demands occur in the frontal plane, which is your left and right, and then the transverse plane, which is rotation, as we've discussed. So spinal shear occurs when the athlete rotates without allowing their hips to open, although it can occur if you do allow your hips to rotate and open and they're not, pliable, which is why we do our mobility. But yeah, open hips will protect your back as best as possible. Okay, so before we can be explosive, we must be able to move and move well. So I'm going to show you guys some shin boxes, some basin lunges, and then some lunge variations. So we've got our shin boxes. This is a cool one here. So watch Caleb's hips. You see the angles that he has here as he goes into his movement. Again, he's going to be pulling on the band to get some feedback, helping keeping his torso nice and upright as he pivots. So this actually requires a combination of mobility, but also strength to be able to push and bridge into these positions. It's actually a really common jiu-jitsu maneuver and movement, but it also has direct transfer to goalies.
Yeah, there was a question about that. I think Kurt asked, do these drills and concepts transfer to other sports as well? And I think you just answered it. I mean, the answer is absolutely yes.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, like a lot of the way that when I saw the demands and kind of how the athletes are moving, it reminded me a lot of when I would work with martial artists, and then I kind of paired that with some basketball agility components and was able to build something that I thought would have great benefit, and it has. Like a lot of the guys are extremely fast now. I get great feedback from coaches and parents, and also one of our athletes made an All-American team. He was the only Canadian. Yeah,
There you
named
go.
to the what was it, the 2022 lacrosse. I'll pull it up towards the end. Yeah, Arjun, the guy you saw. So I've got some great progression of Arjun through. But yeah, I believe it was the Under Armour 2022 lacrosse undrafted, I'll look it up. I'll find it for you. So we've got our basin lunge here. So here's Arjun again. So again, the tank is filled with water to try to pull him off balance. You're going to start to see his level of flexibility really improve here as we're going through these sets. And all of this is exposure, guys. Just consistently repping this stuff out. And the crazy thing with this athlete is not only did he work extremely hard on his own, but he was only seeing me once a week. And he is strong, man. So the ability to move through these movements slowly, again, as I mentioned, is really going to showcase a lot of the holes that you might have in your mobility strength, if we want to call that like a hybrid hybrid term here. So because the demand is so high to be able to remain stable as you're shifting and moving, especially as you move an object away from you. So again, you could try to run that with this one. You could go with a lighter dumbbell, maybe even just like a 5-pounder to start, just because the amount of movement that's occurring is pretty high. You don't need a ton of load with this stuff. Your body weight will do the job. And here we've got lunge variations. So this one we're doing with the dumbbell. So there's Coach Dave doing some rows in the back. Hey, Dave. Back to Arjun here. So he's pivoting through these different lunge variations. So we've got, on the second time through, I'll kind of show you the different angles that we're looking at here. So you'll see him do a lunge coming inward and across the body. That's a movement not a lot of people would do normally. But again, we're trying to prep the body for a variety of different positions and just see how well he does in between each one. Then he'll do a standard forward lunge and then that reverse lunge. And you'll also notice that he doesn't do like an interim contact. He's stepping and then having to balance on that right leg and then step into the next one immediately. And then we've got our lateral lunge. So this is more of a standard position that we'd see where he's dropping the leg in here. And then we'll come forward again and backward one more time. And then in on a 45. So this is, or not a 45. This is just a slightly different lunge as he's coming in from the standard one. So just changing the angles up a bit and exposing the body to some different stuff. And then out one more time, and then in and across again. So just lots of different exposure, pushing through each rep through the toes to be able to drive in and catch himself, while also keeping that nice upright posture to build that goalie strength in the upper body. And we'll keep rolling here. So now we are into strength drills. So starting from the ground up, I'll show you the pogo drill that I showed you previously, which is the bouncing one. We'll cover that quickly because you've seen it already. But yeah, so we want to make sure that the feet are stiff and strong, which I mentioned much earlier, because we want that reactive feedback to allow us to push ourselves into these different positions that we're trying to get into to make these saves. So here's Arjun again, one more time, just pulling down on the band and trying to spring up. So that's our first one. And then taking you back over, we've got Marcus and Caleb with the dumbbells here. Here they're pushing side to side, hopping over the cones, just changing the angles of the feet as they push through. I've told both of them to be pretty aggressive here. So as they're shifting, they're also stomping into the ground hard through the toes. So they're getting a lot of reverberative feedback through their shins as well as through their calves to help build those up. And they're trying to keep the intensity up. So we're going for no longer than 10 seconds, but we want a lot of aggressive contact to really help build up the strength in those feet. And then we're moving on to loaded Cossacks. So this is the hamstring stretch I showed you earlier, but here I have Arjun with the tank. So he's going to pivot it over and get nice and low. Oh, wow. This requires a lot of strength to push in and out of these positions, especially considering how low you are. This tank's got about 25, 30 pounds in it. And from such a deep position, it's a lot of work to be able to get in and out. But again, remember, we're not working so much as the importance of the load as just the quality of movement. So we want good depth here. We don't want weight that's going to throw you off balance or screw up the movement. You do want to get a little bit of feedback from it, but you want to be able to complete the movement with control. Okay. And here we go. So next one we've got our slow tempo skaters. So I love this drill. Skaters are amazing. I believe in one of the previous summits, there was another coach that covered them. I like doing them obviously first with body weight, everything first with body weight, and then progress to a load that is, more of a standard load. And then you can progress to this, which I would call like a variable load because it moves around. Even though the load is the same, it's a little bit more unstable. So it's giving you different types of feedback. Right. So here, Arjun is going to push side to side and then stick the landing. Oh, wow. Yeah, and he's also throwing the tank side to side. So as you're loading over the body, you're then exploding back, and you'll see him try to speed up here and get a little bit quicker. But that load is heavy. So what we want to do is we want to expose the body to these short bursts with heavier load. And then when we change it up and reduce that load, you'll find that the body is more accustomed to what it was previously needing to respond to, and that will help to increase your speed. So here we have, let's see what we got here. Yeah, so this is a low basin sweep. So this one more for the hips and groin, just having a light tank extending the tank out front as he shifts side to side. This is really going to work the adductors and the muscles that help from the earlier drawing, just kind of bulletproofing those muscles and exposing them to a lot of load. And again, being able to push and shift with some nice low angles doing that. And then here we've got the level change, block and sweep. So I like this combination. I had a few of the kids call it like a Mortal Kombat combo. Basically what we're looking at here is we're trying to get a variety of rotation and a variety of angles done in a very short amount of time. And we really want to see high levels of aggressiveness. So imagine that you're going through a sprint with this, right? So the intensity has to be cranked, but also the balance has to be like a cat. Here we go. So this tank at this point is fully loaded. So 40 pounds here. He's ripping and rotating it quite fast. And you'll see the most important thing and most impressive thing is on that last one, as he gets low, look at how well he's able to stick that position. Does that make sense?
Like hold it right at the very end.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's a lot of force that's being applied on each one, and he's sending it as quickly as he can side to side, but he can still stick at the end. And when you're on your tippy toes, this is nuts. So one more time, yeah, ripping through and across.
Is he in the snow there, by the way?
Oh, no, just because we're in Canada doesn't mean they're snowman. No, I'm kidding. It's just gravel field.
Oh, gotcha. All right.
Yeah.
I was gonna say it's a weird setup for snow shorts in the
yeah, no, actually the very first time I worked with Arjun and Dave, we shoveled a crap ton of snow. Actually, Dave came in early with Arjun, and that was their warm up. They shoveled some snow out, and we worked in like the tundra. That was pretty badass.
Yeah.
Okay, where are we here? So now we're moving to our explosive stuff. So we've got resisted sprints. So here Arjun's doing some like light tempo hops. You'll see him kind of bouncing before I give him the go command. He's got some bands attached to him, and then he has 2 of my kettlebells wrapped around him. And I like doing this drill because we want, with goalies as well, I think it's really relevant to teach that explosiveness through the feet by having them need to know how to exert a lot of energy into the ground, because that's the overarching theme here. We're trying to teach the athlete how to be strong to the feet and then be explosive to get to different positions. Even though the goalie isn't running forward, being able to push your energy into the ground is integral to your position as far as being able to be athletic and get to where you need to go. So you're just going to see him bouncing through the toes, and then he's going to drive forward as hard as he can. Quite short distance. I think the video cuts off. Yeah, so it's only about six seconds of work. That's why the clip is set for 6. But yeah, a lot of effort, and he's got a lot of friction and drag here. He's moving with in and around 100 pounds here. Again, the load can vary depending on what the athlete's kind of familiarity is. If you have a partner, you can use a band and have the other athlete resist you. But again, the main thing here is you don't want to overload. We want just enough load to help get that force that you want to be able to apply to make you faster. But you can't be doing, like, if you're doing body weight or heavier, you're probably not going to go that fast. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. So now we've got our what's this one? Oh yeah. Okay. So going from that previous one now, where I had Arjun with the heavier tank loading and moving, we've now switched it up. So now he's using the lighter tank, and you're going to see how much faster he is after loading the body first with that heavy weight and then switching to a lighter load. His body and the movement pattern is now primed to work against that heavier resistance, and you're going to see how shifty he is here. He's also reaching the tank out to like much further, so he's able, or it forces him to be able to control the tank at a much greater distance. So you can see one more time here as he goes through, especially on the last one here. He's sweeping it way out here, whereas before his arms were bent and in here. So even though it doesn't seem like much of a distance change, it actually is a lot. And he's getting a much more fluid line as he kind of pushes through. And then again, all while on the toes. Yeah, and then right there too, you get to see it as well. So he's picking it up, much greater angle. And again, I'll show you some band variations you can do if you don't have access to one of these.
Yeah, there was a question about what are those things again? It was a Bosu Surge.
Yeah, so there, I used to
And they're
train with this piece.
pretty
Oh,
pricey,
sorry.
huh? I'm looking at it on Amazon, like $100. Is that?
Yeah, but for the variability of what you can accomplish with it, they're insane. So there's also another piece of equipment called a Viper, and that's what I was more familiar with originally.
Mhm.
But the Viper is a solid tool, so you can't change the load within it. And it's also there. Those ones are more expensive. Those ones go into like 400 to like 600, whereas that tank is $100, and you can switch the variability of the load. So as you're progressing and getting stronger with it, you can change the load based on where you're at. So it's very, very lucrative, easy on the pocketbook, and very efficient in that way.
Yeah.
And no, I'm not sponsored by that company. Okay, so back here we've got more of our explosive skaters. So now you can see Arjun's able to move a bit faster with this lighter tank. So I would normally run him with the heavy one first and then switch to the lighter one, and then we'd switch to body weight afterwards, and you'll really notice that he's able to explode and shift and feel pretty weightless as he goes into these different movements. So one more time, pushing hard off the toes as he goes and ripping the tank side to side. The more aggressive you are with the arms as well, it's just going to help the athlete get accustomed to driving their entire body over to be able to get to that ball nice and fast. And then this is another explosive drill. So I like this variation of the walk the line drill. I'll get him to do hops and rotations. So I'll either be calling out a command or I'll point in a direction. So as soon as he pivots in the air, he's going to look at me and then have to move to the position. And again, we want nice tight contact.
As he turns around, you've got like your hand pointed in one direction, and
That's right.
And exploding to that direction.
Exactly. Or what I'll do is I'll have it not only to the direction, but it's also like high or low. So he has to see and then immediately pivot and go. And you'll see it. We'll do it one more time here. When he does this pivot, there's one, and you can actually look as well at the ground coverage. That's another thing that we're looking at here. When he really pushes, he starts here, and you'll see where he finishes, right? 2 feet plant way outside those lines. That's what we're looking for. Big explosion in and out of the lines.
Mm-hmm.
And then see there, he messes up the turn. So that's another thing. So you're playing not only with the different movement, but you're also playing with, can the athlete remember how to get back in line? Yeah, so he caught himself and then he picks it up and keeps going.
Yeah, I love drills like this where you just need the goalie stick. Your mom or dad could be the one pointing. So it's super, super easy to do. You can do this in your backyard.
Yeah, totally. Try to mix those in. Yeah, the movement ones where you get the person thinking, they're equally as important as those speed ones, and especially going back and forth once the athlete gets the hang of it. That's where you can really build some cool stuff and be creative as the coach or as the athlete. So I really like this one as well. This is an excellent drill. So as Arjun is pushing back here, I like this one because we're working not only in forward movements, but also in backwards movements. When you push through the toes, you get excellent reactivity through the foot and through the calf. So here he's got 5 contacts before switching his feet, and then I'll call save or go, and he has to drive his energy forwards now after traveling backwards, and then make a save, or out to the side. Yeah, so this is a good one here. So as he comes out and across, I say go. He immediately drops and then pushes hard to get over, and then continues to push back through the calves, and then back into his position. Yeah, so those little toe drifts or backpedaling movements are excellent to teach the athlete how, if they're out of position or their momentum is traveling backwards, how to quickly dig into the ground and change direction. Really like those for that. And then we've got, so this one is Caleb. So Yeah, as far as footwork is concerned with the goalies as well, I think it's really useful to go through a lot of light plyometrics because of that cat analogy from earlier. You want to have those, you want to have the athlete be able to utilize those spring forces to change direction. So here he's doing what we call like a gallop step. He's stepping out into the side and then out into the side, nice and light. And then when I call save, he's going to drop into some box save combination. So you'll see him go past me here. He's just kind of shuffling side to side, getting nice extension, driving through the hips. And then I'll call save, and he's going to drop into a box move. And I'll often call it as he's hitting the ground. So you're getting that quick reactivity where he connects and then immediately has to make a decision on what he's going to do. And I'll always tell the athletes not to have it premeditated because we want it to be instinctual. So we don't want you to have to overthink it, because the more you're thinking about what you're going to do, the ball is already in the net. Okay, so that's the end of the well, most of the videos. I hope everyone's still with me. So now we go through training session organization. So we've got the warm-up, which is that movement matrix that I showed you guys. We're going to cycle through that 3 times. And then from that afterwards, we'll go into those lunge pivots where you've got the band and you're turning side to side. Warming up the ankle stabilizers, do about 15 of those over and back. And then we do a minute of band resisted walks, so glute or hip activation. I didn't put a video of that in here because they're very common exercises. Basically, you put the band on just above the knees and you're driving out against the band using your hips, and you'll walk either left to right or forwards and backwards. They're very common. And then we do our light plyometrics. So those might be some of those shuffles or changes of direction that I just showed you with Caleb there. And then we get into our band resisted spring hop stuff. So those are those pogos where you're jumping, or any sort of calf variation where you're springing around. And then we'll do those hay balers and rotations. So the big rotational arc one. And then we would get into our actual drills. So we go through loaded skater variations. And then we go through our explosive hip rotations, which would be those blocks, or like the Mortal Kombat combination where you're sweeping and lunging. And then we would finish with some walk the line drills as well. So that's the last set where you're pointing in a direction, or the athlete has to start in a different position and is moving from there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. All right. So sets and reps. So sets and reps here. So they can vary greatly depending on a variety of factors. So your fitness level, the movement quality, which I mentioned earlier, and then the frequency of training. So when I say frequency of training, I'm talking about how much time do you have allotted to train? If I'm training, let's say I have enough time to train 3 or 4 sessions a week, well, then I don't have to do as much frequency in each session. I actually need to do less frequency because I'm not trying to get tired in these sessions. I'm trying to work efficiently and then get out, because I'll either have to go to practice or do whatever, or I have a game where there's a tournament, or I'm playing in field and box, as many athletes are. So I need to be able to manage my energy so I keep myself not tired. I can stay fresh, basically. So yeah, if you're in season or out of season, if you're out of season, you can train more frequently. So you would allow, I would probably allow a program that does something like this. You'd probably want to be doing it 2 to 3 times a week, just to make sure that you're keeping the adaptation that you're looking for up. You want to have those spring forces. You want to expose the body to a lot of that aggressive style of training so that you're getting the response that you want. But again, we want high quality reps and lots of rest, so we're not getting tired. It also depends on the time of day. Some athletes prefer, especially for younger athletes, it's difficult for them to wake up. So you want to try to find a time where you feel most alert. That's going to allow you to get the most out of your sessions. And, you don't want to go to bed feeling super bagged. So find a time throughout the day that works best for you, and take it from there. And then also taking into account athletes' practice schedule for the week or month. As a coach, you want to make sure that you're programming stuff accordingly so that it doesn't overlap. I do, however, have athletes come to me before games, and we will run, like the clip with Caleb there. He actually came out and did a workout with me literally minutes before he went into a game. So what I'll do in those sessions is I focus a little bit more on mobility than having a full sprint session, obviously. And then I try to provide combinations of those movement prep drills and those gallop drills just to get the body warmed up and alert. So when he goes into his warm-ups, he's already been warming up for an hour. So by the time they see him or he's seeing the ball, he's been ready to go. And the feedback that I've got from his father and parents has been that their performance has greatly improved because they're not trying to ramp up their energy. They're basically already there. Okay, so
I know we're real quickly. I know we're at the top of the hour. If you guys can stick around, we're going to keep going. But if you do need to drop, no problem. The replays will be up tonight. You can catch the rest of it. Curtis, a couple of folks were asking, do you have like a playlist of these videos somewhere? Are they on your Instagram? What about that?
Yeah. So I do have kind of like a vault, I guess. And then generally what I'll do is each week I'll be creating new ones with the athletes and running through them. And then what I'll also be doing is I will be releasing them in kind of blocks depending on what I'm looking at. And my goal with this as well is to also be able to, for anyone that's watching and is interested, I want to be able to do remote programming. So I'm gonna, if maybe I should do it now, if I throw my email up in the chat, I'd definitely be interested to run like a consult with you first. And then from there,
yeah, let's do that because I know a bunch of folks have to drop at the top of the hour. So I will say some folks said that it was, I think I saw one comment, it was choppy. On my end, the videos were playing great. So if you want to go back and the replay tonight that you catch, it'll all be super smooth. Trust me, the videos are playing fine on my end. So there's
amazing.
Yeah. So there's, oh wait, actually, hang on. Let me copy it because I'm gonna send it to everybody. So there's your email. And if folks want to reach out for a consult, by all means, there's the email. And before you go, leave a comment in the chat. We always like to hear what you thought of the session, but we're going to keep going. And we do have some questions that we'll get to. But yeah, go ahead, Coach.
Okay, amazing. Yeah. All right. So we're going through skater scenarios. So contrasting, the importance of contrast training with this method. So basically contrast training is looking at mixing body weight with a heavier load and then a lighter load and then going back to your body weight. So I found that repping out 3 to 5 efforts and finishing with body weight for the final 2 is particularly effective because this again gets the body accustomed to working against those extra resistances, and then removing those resistances allows the athlete to feel more weightless, and also again preps their body to be able to move more explosively. So loaded skaters, which is the drill that you saw my client Arjun go through. So the weights were 15 pounds, 30 pounds, 30 pounds, and then body weight. So basically he went with the light tank first and then went heavy, and then went body weight. So after those 3 sets, on that 4th set, he's getting a lot of that exposure from the weight, and then you remove it and he should be much faster. So another one would be starting body weight, then going up to 30 pounds and then dropping back to 15 and then going body weight again. So if the athlete was learning, I would probably use this method, but because Arjun had done it many times before, I could basically just go right into the movement with him. But when you're learning, go body weight first, and then you actually want to go heavier, because incorporating that heavier load is going to force the athlete to not cheat the movement because they have to keep that structure to be able to move. And then all efforts should be performed under 10 seconds with about 1 minute to 1.5 minutes of rest to maintain that cat-like explosiveness. Is that all checking out? Make sense?
Yeah.
Awesome. So this is just like literally the cusp of how I would train. This is just one of the drills and one of the rep schemes that I use. So again, as far as creating like a consult scenario where I can build a program for athletes that are interested, I'd very much be interested in that. So and the way that would work is we would do a Zoom session first, and then I would ask you to do some intake stuff, and then from there I could build a program specific to your needs. So we're now in the equipment considerations and progression order. So body weight, we've got the importance of covering the lunges, the balance, the bounds, and the lateral strides, and then the movement exploration. All that stuff has to be solid before we can get into anything with weights. So one of the other drills that we run here is, or that we run is the skater to long stride. So Arjun is actually performing bodyweight skaters with his stick, side to side. Then I'll give him a go command, and he has to make sure that when he drives off this left leg, he's exploding and planting, again, trying to create some distance. You can see, look at that angle. That's what I'm looking at. I
Yeah.
want to see angles like this, right? Really strong, aggressive angles where you're getting that punch into the ground, and you'll see how much ground he covers. See all the way over here, and then clearing back over, and then shuffling back. And then another variation out of that one is I'll also do a clap where he has to pivot in the air and then make the save on the other side. That's why you see the cone behind him there. So that's more of like applying the stuff after we've done those skaters. Then we'll get into stuff like that. And then with our bands, we've got light to moderate resistances. You don't want to disrupt the movement quality again, so we want to make sure that the bands aren't overbearing. So we've got our banded lunge. So here we've got the bands attached to the wall here, or sorry, into the fence. So here, this one's nice and slow. So he's pivoting and reaching out, not really so much focused on actually making a save, but just trying to take his body through an end range and also see how well he can maintain tension against that load for a short duration. Just kind of sweeping in, scooping low, or reaching out. So with this one, he's actually trying to reach the stick as far as he can outwards. But the main thing that I want you to focus on is, or main two things are his posture. And then also he's driving through that right foot to get all the way out. So one more time here, up high, reaching out. So that takes a lot of core strength as he's kind of fighting the band to hold the position and getting that nice extension to the leg there. And then we've got, so this is more of a speed-based drill. I really like this one too. So we've got the band hooked in. This is a lighter band hooked in to the fence as well. And he's just reacting to different positions or different angles, all within that like 10-second range, just trying to be as aggressive as he can.
Yeah. There was a question from Gavin about drills for faster hands. I mean, boom, right here, right?
Yeah, exactly. Literally. But so not only faster hands, but you're also getting that coordination where you are. And so the attachment point of the band is big here. Arjun prefers to have it over his dominant like driving hand, so his left hand. Mm-hmm. And then also you're building the coordination between the lower body and upper body here, because you'll watch him punch with that left foot to get into the position. And there's somewhere he's stepping and somewhere he's reaching, right? So you just want to make sure that you're being nice and reactive, and he always resets that right foot as well. Just make sure you're resetting in between and then exploding. You could literally go nuts with this stuff, again, as long as you're rotating. And when I say go nuts, make sure you're getting appropriate rest. But as far as the variability, like this movement, you can go crazy with all these different angles. There's so many different variations you can run, and they're all going to help improve your speed as long as you're resting appropriately.
All right. Gavin, you still with us? Hopefully.
Yeah.
I think he asked that question at the beginning. So if you're still here, let us know.
And then so static tools, we've got dumbbells, so this is another option. If you can't get your hands on the Surge or the Viper, there's a Synergy weighted bar that I picked up. These things are cheap, like $50, depending on the load. And again, if you could have one that was your lighter one and one that was your heavier one, these are also very useful. So, and the cool thing about this is the weight is through the entire bar. So if you have your hands on the end, the bar becomes very heavy. Does that make sense?
If you have your hands on the end, oh yeah.
Yeah, so if you think about the way that the levers are designed, if my hands are in the center of it, the weight is evenly distributed, right?
Okay, yeah.
But if I'm holding it at the end, right, it still weighs the same. So that end these ones are 15 pounds, but that end gets real heavy real fast. So,
yeah, there's more force on that far part. That far end part.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. So here he's going through an 8-point lunge. So this is different than the one we did previously. So he hits that forward lunge and then comes out, and then the 90.
I was thinking at my gym, they don't have the Surge things, obviously, but they do have those like sandbags that have the same kind of handles. I guess that's not 100% replicating the idea because the weight doesn't shift, but could I use those in a pinch?
Yeah, totally. You definitely could use the sandbags. Depending on how the handles are designed, that's another excellent option that I've seen other coaches use. Yeah, and the main thing is with the tool, you are trying to understand what is the purpose of the movement, right? So if we're focusing on the use of our hips, that's the key caveat. But as far as replicating the tank, the sandbag is an excellent alternate option.
Okay.
Yeah, and then here, so he's just gonna go. We'll go through that one more time. So again, that forward lunge, and again, based on where this is, if it's pivoted over, it's gonna work more of your core. Right now, this is working a lot of his forearms. You can also do a lot of those sweeping rotational movements with this tool as well. Might be a little bit more easy to access. And then we've got this other one here. So this is that rotational drill that you saw too. You can also do the skaters with this as well. But yeah, the same thing. So you got the hay baler movement. You can go through it as well. You're getting more, you get more of like a grip demand from this than you will from the tank. But you won't get that same level of kind of sloshy kind of instability. But again, if we're focusing on the movement quality and we're trying to utilize our toes and work on our balance, this tool works just as well.
Yeah. Awesome.
Okay. So yeah, again, if you're interested, you can book a consultation, follow my email. You can also follow me on Instagram at armstrong.snc. My website is armstrong-snc.com, and then my email is there. So what I'll do is I will copy all of those and I'll place them in the chat for you. And then, yeah, of course, if there's any feedback that anyone has from this presentation, I would be happy to take it on.
Well, that was amazing. That was amazing. Show some love in the chat if you could. That was so much good information. I don't think I've ever seen so many drills shared in such little time. I'll go ahead. I'll go ahead and let's see. You got to send it to everybody. So let me copy it and paste it again. Bam. So there's the website, the Instagram, the email. That was awesome. That was awesome stuff. Best session yet, says Ron. Awesome. Ron did have,
Ron.
Yeah, we do have a couple questions. If you got a few more minutes, we'll try to hit as many as we can here. When you talked about the barefoot training, Ron had a question. I used to have runners do barefoot sprints on the grass and sand. It was great for building foot strength and stride strength. However, it needs to be emphasized, build this up very slowly and gradually. Otherwise, you can get Achilles problems. I'd love to hear the coach's opinion on this.
That is correct. Yeah, exactly. So the importance of, like, I can't stress enough the importance of low impact plyometrics. So basically what that means is low impact is working your body up to being able to do those sprints. So even starting with some light bounds or even variations similar to skipping. So you'd start with your standard like 2-foot contacts, then you switch to an alternating contact, and all at a very low effort. You can run stuff like that for like 2 to 5 minutes, almost like kind of similar to the way you would with a jog. But again, the intensity is just that light bouncing and then providing decent amount of rest over a long period. So if you were looking to build something like that, I would definitely group that into, getting your fitness up, but it's very specific. And then you would be able to transition into going to the track. And I would honestly start before you go to the track. Try to do some light jogging in bare feet just on the grass, just because it's a little bit easier on your joints. And then getting that in and then building that up. Another alternate option that's really good as well is doing hill work. I personally do hill sprints because I'll either do that or I'll do resisted sprints, not in my bare feet, but yeah, it's an excellent option to be able to get your body accustomed to that level of stress before doing like heavy repeats or getting into anything barefoot. Hopefully that answered the question.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah, because and Ron even mentioned in his question, like I've heard that, when you're training in like Nikes, for example, like you're essentially standing on a pillow, right? I mean, you've got like, and it creates instability. It doesn't create that contact with the ground.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, that barefoot training can really help out.
Totally.
Yeah.
Like an excellent drill for anyone who would be interested is like obviously, I don't know. I don't have my shoes on in the house. Some people have shoes on in the house. But yeah, if you put a pillow on the ground and you stand on it on one leg and see how well you balance, See if you can get to that balance for like 2 minutes with just the pillow on. Then you can move around and add some instability, and then you can throw another pillow on top of that. It's going to work the proprioceptors in that ankle and really teach the foot what the ground feels like and how to be able to create that stability that's very needed. So
Yeah,
we don't
love
do
it.
that enough.
Yeah, love it. Let's hit a few more. Dylan was asking, why should you do these exercises a lot to get better at goalie? Dylan, if you rewatch the presentation, there's a slide at the very beginning. It might make more sense now that we've gone all the way through it, where he just said, here's why you do it, right? Become a better athlete. Maybe you've heard this expression, goalies need to be the best athletes on the team. That's a
Right.
pretty common expression. How do you become the best athlete? That's what we're talking about today, doing these exercises, which a lot of them I've never seen presented at a summit, which is unbelievable. So there you go, Dylan. A couple other questions. Tony asked a great one. Were the athletes given homework to do on their own outside of the once a week visits? And if so, what was that?
Oh, totally. Well, and again, right, if I could have the athletes train 3 times a week or more, I totally would. But obviously they're young student athletes and life calls. But the homework that they're given is basically the mobility drills that you saw there. So being able to go through that cobra, being able to do the shin boxes. I made sure that I gave each athlete a small resistance band, as well as like the work that we did with the plyometrics. So their homework was low impact plyometrics and mobility. And then when they came to see me, that's where we would ramp things up and go through those different movements that you saw in the presentation. But yeah, homework was mobility, running through those sequences, and doing light plyometrics when they had time.
Interesting. All right. We'll do one final question. I'm curious to get your opinion on this one. Will asks, I will step and get to a shot easily, but it will come pretty fast and hits the plastic and shakes the head. I can't control that. And it either goes in the net or I don't control the rebound. And the coach says it's a weight room save. Can I do anything to help this?
Yeah, so
I've
that to
got some thoughts, but
me,
go ahead.
that to me is a like a stabilization issue, right? So that you're struggling to, like, you can contact the ball as it comes in, but you're struggling to actually corral the ball. So there's a few tension exercises that I think would be really useful to cover with you. I'm trying to think of how I would. So yeah, so a great one would be if you. I literally have a video of this, but I didn't put it in here. But so what you would do is you would loop a band through your stick, and you can practice having the band as far away from you as possible and pressing it forward. And when it's really far away on the stick, what happens is it's that resistance is pulling you backwards. It's kind of countering your position. So you have to work slowly to extend it out in a straight line. That's going to help build your shoulder stability, as well as also controlling the stick. Or if you don't have a band, what you could also do is you could also go into a tabletop position and practice pushing into the ground with one hand while lifting the other hand up, and then doing the same thing. So you're lifting a foot up as well, driving the hands, and then the one foot that's contacting the ground as well, or alternating, and vice versa. Those are excellent tension drills to help teach you how to connect quickly and create that stability.
Yeah, that's a great answer. I will say from a technique perspective too, Will, I don't know if you grip on your top hand on the shaft, but a lot of goalies actually grip the plastic to reduce the spin. So you get hit right here and you have a little bit more force as opposed to down here. It slides a little bit and gives. So just one quick tip. That was awesome. One quick question. I should have asked this at the beginning. All of your demos were with guys, but this is equally as applicable
Yes.
to the to females as well, right?
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
So I actually do have a female goalie athlete, but her primary sport is actually volleyball. So I've been
Okay.
training her predominantly for that. But yeah, I know that you saw guys in my presentation. But yeah, these drills I would run, and I do run. I run the cross combination with cadence as well, just the block ones. But they are universal drills. They are excellent because every athlete needs to be able to rotate and stabilize, and then also needs to be able to contact the ground aggressively. So I would train male and female athletes with the exact same principles, and then obviously vary the sets and the reps depending on that individual's needs.
Coach, thank you so much for sharing, putting all this together, sharing all that. One more time, guys, show them some love in the chat. I thought that was amazing. We'll be back in about 40 minutes with Coming in Clutch, talking about clearing. So Coach, thank you so much. We'll see you soon.
Yeah, no worries. Take care. Thank
Take
you,
care.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.